I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You're going to learn exactly what you need to do to finally achieve the level of financial success that you desire and you deserve. So many Black women are coming out of graduate school with enormous amount of student loan debt. In fact, many have on average $75,000 in student loan debt. And many times those same women go into the public sector with the hopes that their student loans will eventually be forgiven. Well, the truth is, since the public student loan forgiveness program was introduced, 98% of applications have been rejected. Well, today, we're going to hear from someone who, because of the recent changes in the program, was able to have almost 6 figures of student loan debt forgiven. And so I'm really, really excited about this conversation. But here's what I want you to know. What they don't want you to know is that student loan debt is not good debt. And then in addition to that, so many people take out student loan consolidation loans and they're private. And that could be detrimental in the long run. And then finally, the recent public student loan forgiveness changes are temporary. And that's why you want to act right now. And that's why I want to have this conversation with our guest today, because she is like so many women that I describe, a pharmacist and someone that pursued her graduate degree. And so I want to welcome Stacey McCoy to our program today. Welcome to Get Wealthy, Stacey.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have this conversation because, as you know, we focus on this topic a lot in Wealthy You. But before we really get into this conversation, I want our audience to know just a little bit about yourself. I told them, some information, but talk to us. Just who is Stacey McCoy?
Okay, so I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I think that's the first part.
Texas.
Anyone that's from Houston needs to let you know they're from Houston. So I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I went to undergraduate and graduate school the first time at Clark Atlanta University. Graduated from there and went to pharmacy school. I stayed in Atlanta, went to Mercer University, did a residency. This was years ago, almost 20 years ago, in Savannah, Georgia. And so since that time, I have worked at community institutions, large teaching institutions in the Southeast. I've always practiced in the Southeast. And I spent a great deal of my time working in the public sector, as you described, at a large institution or a large health system here in Northeast Florida. And I've since transitioned out of public sector into the private sector, which is where I really wanted to be and where I feel I really fit in and I can really shine now. So that's sort of me in a nutshell.
No, I love that. And what's interesting about you, Stacey, is you have followed the path of so many Black women specifically who are pursuing, the American dream and financial success. And so during our conversation today, what I want to get underneath really is just what your beliefs were and why you pursued the path that you did, and then how you were able to actually achieve this recent result. And so when we come back, our whole framework for the show is mindset, strategy, and execution. And when we come back, I really want to talk with Dr. Stacey McCoy about the mindset and the beliefs that she had as she pursued her career as a pharmacist. So when we come back, folks, it's all about mindset.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA? Check. Aggressive savings and investments? Check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the 6-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at wealthyu.com.
It all starts with mindset, strategy, and execution on this show. And so now I want to talk with Dr. Stacey McCoy about her mindset on pursuing these degrees and the student loan debt that came along with it. So Dr. Stacey McCoy, I'm so excited to be having this conversation.
I'm glad to be here. I know so many other colleagues that are in a similar situation, and anything I can do to help other women put the pieces of the puzzle together it's definitely helpful for everyone.
Yeah, so let's talk about mindset. Like, as you went to college, and I think what's really interesting, what you shared is that you were able to get your undergraduate and your master's degree without any debt. And so now you're about to pursue this 6 years in pharmacy school, and it's going to cost you. So did you know how much debt you were going to have to take on to obtain that the doctorate in pharmacy?
I think I knew the number, but I didn't have an understanding about what that would look like long term.
And so you're pursuing this doctorate degree. You come out with so how long did it take you to finish, though? Were you working and going to school at the same time?
Yeah, I guess so. So pharmacy school for me was 4 years, and I did have a job at a chain drugstore, and it was just a small job. I was an intern, so I might have been making $12 to $14 an hour. I really don't remember at this point, but I did have a job quite some time ago.
Yeah. But my thought was just about, mindset. You're pursuing this degree. How much income did you think you were going to be able to earn, and how did you think you were going to be able to pay off that student loan? How long did you think it would take you?
So I thought, I knew when I'd heard, we talked, all my friends, like, once you become a pharmacist, and this was actually a long time ago when pharmacists were in short supply, people were getting sign-on bonuses, cars. Again, I said, this is a very long time ago. This is before the market was super saturated. And I knew that I would be making six figures. And for us, as a people of color, most of us don't have anybody in our families making six figures. And so we have always been told that was a lot of money. Like, you could do so much if you could just get to that point. And that's what I wanted to do. I just needed to get there. However, I got there. I needed to get there.
And so you get this college degree, you come out, you get this graduate degree, you're now a doctor. And do you realize that six-figure salary?
You do. I did a postdoc for 1 year in Savannah, and at that point, I really wasn't making a whole lot. I think I was probably making about $35,000. So you sacrifice for one more year. But then after that, once you do take your first position, you get the money. But I hadn't had any counseling about this is your loan. It's like a mortgage, right? So this is your loan. This is how you're going to pay it off. This is how long it's going to take. This is what that's going to look like for you in the future. I never really had anyone to talk to me about what that would look like and what other sacrifices would need to be made in order to satisfy that debt.
And so when you're making this money, you get your first student, your first payment. Like, at what point after you finish this degree do you have to start paying on the loan?
You have 6 months. And I remember signing up for what at the time was called a graduated plan. And that meant that every 5 to 7 years, I think, your payments would increase. And might have started out paying $300 to $400 a month. It wasn't a whole lot. And I just knew that in time it would go away.
The belief that this road to financial success. So you really bought into the idea that so many, myself included, bought in, and my parents, wanted for me. And that was if I got that great 6-figure income, that, that financial success would be obtained that way. And so when we come back, you've got all this debt, your loans are you're paying smaller payments. And when we come back, I really want to talk about, as you begin to understand the weight of what that debt would be, like, what were your earlier strategies? So when we come back, we're going to talk to Dr. Stacey McCoy about coming out of pharmacy school with this 6 figures in debt and not really realizing what the long-term implications would be for that.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Welcome back. I hope you've been enjoying this conversation with Dr. Stacey McCoy. We've been talking about the fact that she, like so many Black women, pursued her graduate degree, came out with 6 figures in student loan debt, and the average is about $75,000 for most graduates. And now she's got smaller payments, but let's talk about what were the implications of carrying that debt. And so, Dr. Stacey McCoy, thank you so much for, just having so much transparency about the mindset and the belief that you had around, I'm going to be making 6 figures. If I just make these payments, eventually they'll go away. So my question to you is, did it go away? Did you see your balance decreasing as you were making those, what would be smaller payments to service the debt?
No, it felt like I was making a little bit of progress, but just as I started to get ahead, it seemed like the balance just kept growing and growing. And maybe 5 to 7 years in might have been the point at which I met you. I just felt like I was on a hamster wheel and there was nothing that I could do about it. And I had to make so many decisions. I was married. I wanted a house. I wanted a wedding. I needed to start working on my 401k and 403b and 457. So all these things became competing priorities. And I needed to figure out, well, whatever happened to those 6 figures? And why is this turning out the way that I thought it should? And that's about the time when I think I met you.
So let's talk about, the strategy. Part of it too is you're making a fairly high income. So that means you're making a tax, you're in a fairly high tax bracket. my question to you is, and I often say that I think what happens is it's like a dream delayed. Because you're paying on this student loan debt, how did that prevent you from buying that first home and really fully contributing to your retirement plans at work?
I think there became a point that I had to make a decision, and I actually made the decision to fund my retirement first. I had to make a decision. I was either going to pay the school loans, or B, max out my 401k, 403b, and then I even asked for a 457 and got it. So I had to make a decision, and that's what I chose, was to start working on my retirement as early as possible, and then find another strategy or figure something out so that I could work on the student loans later.
Yes, and so I want to talk about that from a strategy standpoint. Is okay, you make the decision, then you know that if you don't start to contributing to your retirement plan, you're losing out on two things, basically saving on taxes, right? Because you have a high income, but also that debt is continuing to creep up. And so at this point, you came out with 100,000. Is your balance now above what you came out with, or are you also actually making a dent in it?
I was making a small dent, but not much. Not enough so that it would count. And, you would still see your balance is still, high 90s. And at that point, you're thinking, well, this is a house. Well, nobody told me I was signing up for a mortgage. I think if someone had said you're buying a house, I would have seen this differently. It's a house.
I know, but and then the other question I have for you is, I don't think people understand the trauma that having all of this debt, like you said, a home, really impacts you. Talk to us a little bit about emotionally how you were feeling, and at one point, did you feel like you needed to create a sense of urgency around addressing that 800-pound, elephant in the room?
I did. The longer this went on, the more anxiety I had around it. You literally feel as though like your chest is tightening, you can't breathe, you can't sleep at night, you have to find a way out. Like you don't have that peace of mind, and peace of mind is really priceless. So I think that it contributed to my anxiety. And to your point, people who are higher income earners who are paying student loans, whether you're paying $300 a month, or eventually I got up to $1,700 a month. We don't get tax breaks for that.
Wait a minute. Hold that for just a minute. You were paying $1,700 a month on your student loans?
Yes. And I know other people who are paying more than that, $3,000 to $4,000 a month, just in student loans, just depending on, how your situation turned out. It's not uncommon at all.
You did all the right things. You have your doctorate in pharmacy, you're working, you're making an income, and yet it's almost like you're in the same boat as someone who's making a lot less and doesn't have this student loan debt. So my next question to you, and I know so many people listening are going to want to know, you know that you've delayed the debt, you've made your 401k a priority. When did you finally obtain some kind of strategy to get this debt paid off?
I enrolled in public student loan forgiveness. As soon as the program came out, I went to start working so that I could get that. So I was already in the public sector, and that was 2007. I'd say probably close to 10 years had passed. And at this point, it's already 2017. I've done my 10 years. I've made my 120 payments. I should have qualified and have been forgiven, but I was in that 98% of folks that just weren't being forgiven for whatever reason, whether it was a comma on the application or In my case, I was in such an older program that I just wasn't qualifying, and that was never explained. So through your Wealthy You, I'd met Dr. Tisa Silver Kennedy, who helped me create a strategy so that I could finally get free and get from underneath all this debt and begin working towards a solution.
So talk to us about you to come up with this strategy. Now you did everything you were told to do. You were in the public service, in the public sector. You applied to the student loan forgiveness program. I just don't understand. You made the 10 years of payments, right? And did they ever give you a reason why your application was rejected?
It was rejected multiple times for multiple different reasons. And I think that other students who are in this situation, and we know that there's over 500,000 people that are in the same situation. The very last time it was rejected was because according to their records, and you're not privy to those, and up until I'd say the last 6 to 9 months, you weren't really privy to their records. You don't know where you are, what you're standing, how far along are you, how many payments do you have left, how do you qualify, how do you get out? So according to them, I'd only made 119 payments before switching from public sector to private sector. And at that point, they said, hey, listen, we just need you to be back in the public sector for another month. Well, I'd already gone on and moved on with my career to private sector, which is where I know I do the best work. And so I actually took on a second job, and I actually worked a private sector plus a public sector while awaiting to get approved. And so I had 2 jobs for an entire year, hoping, that was part of our strategy, hoping that my paperwork and everything would finally get approved, even though according to them, it was really only a month that I needed. I actually ended up working an additional 12 to 13 months public sector to make sure that I would not be rejected again.
Well, it's interesting. So you come on now. Mm-hmm. You're a doctor, you're working full time in the private sector, and you actually had to go get a part-time job in order to now qualify for loan forgiveness. Oh my goodness. And did you learn that as a result of your relationship with Dr. Tisa Silver Kennedy, her work? If you haven't seen the program, we've interviewed her as well. And she's really helping folks kind of navigate what is a gauntlet when it comes to, understanding whether or not you can qualify or how to qualify.
That is correct. And it wasn't until this past October that they relaxed some of the restrictions and rules and regulations that they had around public student loan forgiveness that I was finally able to check all the check boxes. I had paid all the payments. They had documentation that I paid all the payments. I was in public sector and private sector. I mean, everything finally came together once the Biden-Harris administration finally pushed everything through for so many people. And it was tough. It was tough watching other people get forgiveness and sort of waiting, when is my turn? And reading through different forums and writing Congress folks and senators hey, look, there are those of us out here who are really struggling. And some of us are working 2 jobs during the pandemic. And so it was not easy, but it was definitely worth it.
Thank you, Stacey, because what I want people to understand is how difficult this is for far too many people. That number, 500,000 people, who've been rejected and who are waiting to have their loans forgiven. When we come back, I want to get into, we talked about mindset, we talked about strategy, and you actually reaching out to someone who was able to give you the ins and out. When we come back, though, I think it's important for people to understand exactly how you executed on this strategy and then were able to become one of those people who received notice that your student loans were forgiven. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back to Get Wealthy, everybody. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and we're having a fascinating conversation with Dr. Stacey McCoy about her financial journey and her financial journey as it related to acquiring almost 6 figures in student loan debt. So, Dr. Stacey McCoy, I really want to now talk about you. So you had the strategy now. What did you have to do to actually get to the promised land, right? And actually eventually receive that. I mean, after hearing your story, that's what I really feel like. What did you have to do in order to execute on the strategy that you had?
Once the information came out, I think that was October 6th of 2021, that they were changing the rules and regulations, the website actually said, do nothing and we'll contact you. And so I thought, okay, let me just sit back as best I could and let them contact me. Of course, that lasted about 30 days because remember, I've been waiting for 4 years. So I'd say 30 days after that, maybe November 6th or 7th, I thought to myself, I'm not waiting another minute. And I filled out the application. Again, at this point, this has got to be my 6th or 7th time filling out this application. So I filled out the application again. I sent it in, and that was early November. And I received approval on January the 16th. I think it's January the 16th, 2022. So it took about 60 days to receive approval, and there was no email. There was no letter. I literally just logged into my account at one of the loan servicers, and I saw that things looked different. And that's how I knew that something was going on. So I contacted Dr. Tisa Silver and I said, I think something's going on. And she said, I think you might have been in that wave of folks that were just forgiven. And so we began working to ensure that this was true. Eventually, I did receive official paperwork in the mail. And that's how we made it to the promised land, so to speak. I don't know if I'm in the promised land, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, well, the promised land in that, you had almost 6 figures of student loan debt forgiven. And what I want from this conversation for people to understand your tenacity and your perseverance in making it to this stage. And so finally, I would love it if you would just leave our audience with some final thoughts on what you learned and what you think they should do if they're in a similar situation.
I think documentation is always important. We learn that as we attend HBCUs. Keep up with your documentation and make photocopies. That's the first thing. Step one. The next thing is to have strategy, work with someone who is a professional to make sure that all your bases are covered, and then execute. And even if it means you working multiple days, whatever it is definitely worth it, because I ended up working, I think I would work 12 on and then I would take 2 off, and then 12 on and I'd take 2 off. Being on the other side now is definitely, it was worth it. So get your documentation together, print out everything that you can from their website, work with a professional who can help you execute, and do not give up. Just keep going, do your part, stay calm, and be prepared to know that good things are coming, and that the peace of mind you have when you are debt free, because not only did I get the forgiveness, but I was also refunded. I think that's another important thing that people probably don't know. I was refunded every single penny that I overpaid. And there are other people getting refunds, and I don't think that we know that either. So yes, if you were right all along and you overpaid, you will get your money back. And I think that's really important.
Well, that's, I am so happy for you. And, because we've known each other for years. And, certainly I've been on the path with you as you've learned how to invest and take advantage of the opportunities in your 401k and learning how to invest. But, what I didn't realize is the other side of that coin. And even though you had made the decision to move forward in building wealth, that how much of weight that debt was having on your ability to be truly financially free. And so I just want to say publicly to you how grateful I am for your willingness to have this conversation and encourage others who could find themselves in this situation. So Dr. Stacey McCoy, as always, thank you so much. And I am so happy that this situation had the outcome that it did.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your help. And none of this wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't been a Wealthy You member, because you opened the doors and allowed us to meet other people and to have the resources that we need to move forward and to become educated on so many things.
I appreciate that. Dr. Stacey McCoy, thank you so much. And when we come back, there are some takeaways from this conversation that I want to make sure that you get and that you're able to act on. So when we come back, it's our Analyze, Optimize, Maximize segment, and we'll be right back. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network. Welcome back, everyone. So let's just review what you learned in this conversation. First, the first aspect of it is really you've got to analyze your situation. The reason that Dr. Stacey McCoy was able to really take advantage of the change in this new public service loan forgiveness program is she had already positioned herself to take advantage of it, really dotting her I's and crossing her T's. Secondly, you have got to optimize. You've got to really look at what's your situation. With Stacey, she found out that she really would have been denied again had she not found that other opportunity and put the time in to make sure that she had been in public service the amount of time that she should. And then finally, one of the things I thought was just so revealing about what she said was, even though they told her, sit back and wait, and she'll be notified, she didn't. She investigated further. So if you want to achieve the level of financial success you desire and you deserve, you have got to take action. Here are the 3 takeaways from today's program. First is, what you need to understand is that those payments need to be in a direct federal student loan. So depending upon what your situation is, you want to see how you can make that happen. Secondly, what you heard Dr. Stacey McCoy said is that you had to have 120, that's 10 years, 10 times 12 months, qualifying payments, meaning that you were employed in the public sector. And then finally, those payments must be made while you're in a qualifying job, which is why she had to work those 2 part-time jobs. So here's what I want to leave you with. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge correctly applied is. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. Thanks for joining us on Get Wealthy, and hopefully you gain some knowledge that will finally allow you to achieve the financial success you desire and you deserve.